the boundless bounty of Al-Zaiban and the integrity of Old Salih. A chronicle of chivalry, divine compensation, and a debt of honor across decades. Muhammad Al-Zaiban made his home in the Hafar al-Batn region of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He was a man of legendary hospitality, a soul who considered it his sacred duty to honor any traveler who crossed his path. His name became a beacon among merchants and wayfarers alike. Our story begins during the transformative era when the roar of automobile engines began to replace the rhythmic tread of camel caravans across the desert sands. One afternoon, several vehicles appeared on the horizon near Muhammad's dwelling. He stood by the roadside, signaling the travelers to halt, inviting them to find sanctuary in his home. The party accepted his invitation, and Muhammad welcomed them with exuberant warmth. Without a moment's hesitation, he went to his flock and slaughtered 2 sheep to provide a feast worthy of his guests. As the gathering settled within his majlis, the traditional reception hall, Muhammad noticed a man of distinct presence sitting at the very center of the assembly. One of the guests leaned in and whispered, "O Muhammad, do you truly know the man who sits in the seat of honor?" Muhammad replied with genuine humility, "By God, I do not recognize him, but nonetheless, he and all of you are most welcome." The guest revealed, that is Muhammad bin Ahmad al-Sadari, the poet and the governor of Error. Error was a distant province, lying some 560 kilometers away. Upon hearing this, Muhammad al-Zaiban exclaimed, "Welcome indeed. Had I known his identity, I would have sacrificed far more than 2 sheep." The guests laughed and replied, "May God bless you. Do not slaughter another beast. What you have provided is more than sufficient." They then inquired, "Muhammad, are you well acquainted with the valleys, the plateaus, and the hidden trails of this region? We have journeyed here for the hunt." Muhammad responded, "Indeed, I know every stone and stream. I was born of this earth. But stay tonight as my guests, and tomorrow we shall set out for the hunt together." The governor and his companions remained for 5 days, pursuing their passion for falconry and hunting until they had secured a bounty of birds and game. As they prepared for their departure, the governor turned to his host and said, "O Muhammad, by God's will, you must visit us in Error." Muhammad al-Zaiban replied, "Error is a vast distance from me, but if destiny decrees it, I shall one day seek you out." With those words, the party departed. 10 years drifted by like desert sands. One day, Muhammad went to the marketplace to sell a portion of his flock. Having concluded his business, he sat in the shade of the market to rest. Before him stood a small grocery, and in front of it was a camel laden with jars of clarified butter, sacks of dates, and bags of flour. The owner of the camel was an elderly man, and the cost of the goods was modest, about $100, a sum which carried the weight of $1,000 in today's currency and was considered a fortune at the time. The elderly man, whom we shall call Old Salih, spoke to the grocer with a heavy heart, "I do not possess the coin today, but God is my witness, I shall return your due one day." The grocer retorted with indignation, "Had you told me this before you made your selection, I would have given you nothing." Old Salih pleaded, "I came to the market seeking sustenance, but found no success this time. Yet, God knows my heart. I shall pay you in the days to come." The grocer cried out to the gathered crowd, "O people! Behold this old man who seeks to rob me in broad daylight." Hearing the commotion, Muhammad al-Zaiban, the hero of our tale, approached and asked, "What is the cause of this strife?" The grocer pointed a finger at Salih, "This old man wishes to steal from me." Muhammad looked at the elder and said, "A man of such years seeking to steal? I think not." Old Salih looked up and affirmed, "It is true, theft is not in my heart." Muhammad then turned to the grocer and asked, "What is the debt?" The man replied, $100. Muhammad reached into his pocket, paid the full amount, and prepared to walk away. Old Salih called after him, "Whither are you going?" Muhammad replied, "What is it you require, my friend?" The elder said, "I must know your name, for I intend to repay this sum to you." Muhammad waved a hand dismissively, "I paid this only for the sake of the Almighty. I seek nothing from you. Consider it a gift." However, old Salih insisted, swearing a solemn oath that he must have the name. He turned to the grocer and asked, "Do you know the art of writing?" When the man confirmed he did, Salih instructed Muhammad to dictate his full name. Muhammad provided his name, and as the grocer recorded it, old Salih took the paper and offered a fervent prayer for Muhammad and his parents. He then revealed, "One day, I shall return your right in full. I am a man of error." Muhammad thought to himself, "How shall I ever see this old man again, being that he is from error?" With that thought, he returned to his home. Another 20 years passed, and the wheel of fortune began to turn against Muhammad. A blight struck his livestock, his sheep began to perish, and his financial affairs withered until he could no longer afford the hospitality that was his very lifeblood. He turned to his wife and said, "My dear wife, I am a man of generosity. It is my nature, and I cannot embrace parsimony. Our home sits upon the traveler's path, and many come seeking refuge. Even the people of our town know my reputation and come seeking food. I live in terror that a guest might arrive, and I find myself unable to honor him. What counsel do you offer?" His wife, a woman of noble spirit, replied, "I am with you in whatever you decide." Muhammad declared, "Then we must depart from this place to a land where we are unknown." She agreed, and Muhammad went to the road to find passage. He flagged down an empty truck and asked the driver, "Can you transport me, my wife, my children, and our tent?" The driver asked, "I can, but where is your destination?" Muhammad replied, "To wherever your journey takes you." The driver was puzzled. "You must name a place." Muhammad said, "I wish not to burden you." The driver then explained, "I am from Error and I am heading home." Muhammad's heart skipped a beat. "Then take me to Error. I have no coin for the fare now, but when wealth finds me again, I shall pay you." The driver, moved by the man's dignity, said, "I am going regardless. Climb in." They loaded the tent, the family settled in, and Muhammad sat beside the driver. During the journey, Muhammad asked, "Who is the governor of your province?" The driver replied, "Muhammad al-Sadari." Muhammad remarked, "He is a good man." The driver looked at him with skepticism. "Do you know him?" Muhammad answered, "I do." The driver scoffed, "How could a poor man such as yourself know the governor?" Muhammad replied simply, "He and his companions visited me long ago, and I assisted them in their hunt." Upon arriving in Error, the driver asked, "Where shall I drop you?" Muhammad replied, "Drop us beside the governor's palace." There, beneath the shadow of the palace walls, Muhammad pitched his tent. The following morning, he sought an audience with the governor. When he entered, he offered the greeting of peace. The governor returned the greeting, but looked at him with no sign of recognition. Muhammad asked, "Do you not remember me, O prince?" The governor replied, "I do not." Muhammad said, "I am Muhammad Al-Zaiban. You and your retinue came to me 30 years ago, and I served you in your hunt." The governor's face lit up with joy. He embraced him and said, "I shall honor you as you honored us, but today we are invited to the home of a local dignitary. Tomorrow, however, you shall be my guest." Muhammad replied, "I came only to offer my greetings, but since you invite me, I shall accompany you today." The next day, after the luncheon had concluded, Muhammad stood up, driven by his incurable habit of hospitality, and announced, "O brothers, tomorrow you are all invited to dine at my tent." It was a strange proclamation, for Muhammad possessed not a single sheep to slaughter nor a penny to his name. Yet his soul could not cease its generosity. The governor and his men accepted the invitation. As Muhammad walked back to his tent, he was so lost in thought that his bisht, traditional cloak, slipped from his shoulder and fell into the dust without him realizing it. His wife saw him approaching and knew at once that he was troubled. She rushed out, shook the dust from his cloak, and asked, "What is it that weighs so heavily upon you?" He recounted the invitation he had given and his utter lack of means. His wife, a pillar of strength, replied, "You are generous, but God is more generous than you. He shall grant you relief." She did not reproach him, for she shared his noble heart. Muhammad looked at her and said, "May God bless you, my dear wife." When morning dawned, his wife suggested, "Muhammad, go to one of the shepherds and ask for 3 sheep on credit. Tell him you will pay when God provides." Muhammad saw no other way. He approached a young shepherd tending a massive, flourishing flock and said, "Peace be upon you. Grant me 3 sheep so that I am not shamed before my guests, and I vow to pay you when I am able." The youth replied, "I find it difficult to refuse you, but this entire flock is not mine to give. I receive no wages for tending it. Rather, it is a trust left by my father. May God have mercy on him, for a man I have never met." Muhammad asked, "How can this be?" The youth explained, "When my father died, he left us a paper with the name of a man who paid a debt for him when he was destitute in the market. He left us a small sum of money with which we bought sheep. God blessed this flock until it grew into the fortune you see before you. It belongs entirely to that man, whom we have sought for years but could not find." Muhammad Al-Zaiban's heart raced. "What is the name written on that paper?" The youth replied, "His name is Muhammad Al-Zaiban, from Hafar al-Batin." Muhammad stood tall and said, "I am the man you seek." The youth was wary, fearing a ruse. "Who in our town of Error can vouch for you?" Muhammad answered, "Your governor, Muhammad al-Sadari, knows me well." The youth was overcome with joy. "Praise be to God. Finally, I can deliver this trust." He ran to his brothers, shouting, "At last, we have found the owner of the flock." They returned to the governor's palace, where the governor confirmed Muhammad's identity in full. The youth then turned to Muhammad al-Zaiban and said, "Come with me and take your flock, every single head of it." And so, Muhammad al-Zaiban became a man of great wealth once again. This beautiful tale concludes, a testament to the undying generosity of Muhammad al-Zaiban and the profound integrity of old Salih and his righteous sons. Lessons and insights derived from the story. Noble deeds protect from evil ends. The sum Muhammad paid for a stranger solely for the sake of God returned to him many times over when his world grew narrow. Generosity is an unchanging nature. Muhammad al-Zaiban remained hospitable even in the depths of his poverty. It was a trait woven into his very soul. The fulfillment of vows and returning favors, old Salih's insistence on recording the name of his benefactor, and his son's dedication to guarding that trust for decades, shows the highest form of integrity. The blessing of halal provision. The small amount of money the sons invested grew under God's blessing until it became a vast fortune. The role of a righteous wife. Muhammad's wife was his steadfast ally in both plenty and hardship. She did not blame him for their poverty, but encouraged the nobility of his spirit. If you enjoyed the story, support us by liking and subscribing to the channel to see more.